looked at this subject, I began to get intrigued because in 28 years of preaching, I have preached from Genesis to Revelations, and I barely touch Revelations. But there's one book that I have never really gotten into, and that was the book of Ruth. And it wasn't because I didn't understand Ruth, I didn't want to preach out of Ruth, I just never been there. So this is a time and a season in my ministry where God is saying, I'm going to take you to some unfamiliar territory. And I began to really understand the story concerning Ruth and why she was included in the Bible.
Come on,
she
talk.
was also included in the lineage of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
See, and that's the most important part about this thing about Boaz, because Boaz became a part of the important heritage in the lineage of Jesus Christ. Boaz was already a part of the family of God because in Bethlehem was the family of God.
Yes.
See, and that's why I understand the truth concerning this thing about Boaz. And, you know, everybody wants to talk about the story of Ruth and how, yeah, now God going to bless you with a Boaz. No, baby, God ain't going to bless you with no Boaz. Understand this story. You'll know exactly what God was doing. God was setting Ruth up for a blessing because she had experienced a setback. What are you saying, Apostle? I'm saying that in your life, sometimes your setback ain't nothing but a setup for your comeback and your blessing. Don't despise your setback. Don't complain in your setback. Don't get upset in your setback. Don't look down in your setback, but begin to look up.
Yes.
And begin to press in your setback. How many of you know that there's a blessing in your pressing?
Yes.
And that was the thing about Ruth. Ruth realized, wait a minute now, I'm in a season, you know what? Number one, we're in a famine. Number two, my husband is dead.
Woo, come on.
This is a setback for me.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that, you know what, I've lost all of my provisions because all of her provisions was in her husband.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And she realized I'm in trouble now. But what she looked for was a sign that, you know what, I can't stay in the position that I'm in, but I got to move in another direction. What I'm here to tell you tonight is that when you find yourself in a position where you're setback and you find yourself in a famine, and you find yourself in adversity, and you find yourself delusional and don't know no direction, you don't sit still and wonder what you're going to do next. You don't sit there and just throw your hands up and quit. You don't sit there and just throw your hands up and give up and die. It's easy to give up and die. Matter of fact, that's exactly what the devil wants you to do. He wants you to give up your faith. He wants you to give up your trust. He wants you to give up hope. But you can't give up hope. Woman of God, I hear God telling me to tell you, don't give up hope because it ain't over yet. Matter of fact, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. You ain't seen half of what God is getting ready to do for you. But she realized within herself that I'm in a position now and I can't, so I need to find a better way. I need to find a new direction, a new way to go. And one thing I love about Ruth is Ruth had enough common sense to look at somebody that was older than her. That's why I don't discount the elders.
No.
When I was coming up in ministry, I would never hang out with my peers.
Nope.
I hung out with the older preachers. I hung out with the bishops. I came up in the Church of God in Christ. I hung out with the superintendents and with the bishops. Back in the days, back in the early days, in the early 90s, when they really had anointed men of God. And I hung out with the bishops. Why? Because there was wisdom. And that's what Ruth realized. Ruth realized that there was wisdom in following her mother-in-law. Wisdom became the principal thing that began to be her rescue point.
This is good.
See, and I understood, and as I began to read this story and get into it and realize that there was something powerful in this thing. Ruth realized that there was no hope for me to stay here in the position that I'm in. There's nothing left here. So I've got to move to another dimension. So she began to look to her mother-in-law. And when she saw that there was hope in her mother-in-law, because her mother-in-law was returning back to her land, Ruth got smart. See, a lot of folks nowadays, they ain't getting smart. They ain't getting smart. They get in trouble. They don't get smart and go look to the hills and what's come their help. They just try to figure out things on their own. And then when they